the Saturday Sports Countdown with Brett Pritchard, Randy Lee, and Luke Robinson. Auburn, Alabama, around the SEC and around the nation. This is the Saturday Sports Countdown. To be a part of the program, call 256-234-6221. Now, let's join Brett, Randy, and Luke for the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Good Saturday morning out there to everybody, and welcome into the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard, Luke Robinson here with you till noon, and it is game day. And obviously college football is underway already. It started Thursday night, and there were some games last night as well. But for Alabama and Auburn fans, today is the official day for college football, and we'll be talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers as they get set to take on Louisville and Wisconsin tonight, respectively. Auburn and Louisville will be up first at 2:30, and then Alabama and Wisconsin at 7 o'clock from Dallas, Texas. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting day of action. We want to hear from you. The phone lines will be open the entire show, 256-234-6221. Our prediction score all week has been Alabama-Wisconsin. Tiebreaker is Derrick Henry rushing yards. We'd love for you to get your call in on that. And also, since it's Auburn's first game and it's a big game for them against Louisville, we'll take your prediction on Auburn-Louisville too. Just throw it out there, and we'll go with what we've been doing on Sports Call, Rock Thomas rushing yards, the tiebreaker there for Auburn. So excited about that, Luke. We'll start with high school football in the first few segments here of this program because last night, week 3 is under the belt now of high school football. I mean, you're 2 weeks away from being halfway through the season. I know is that weird to say? And we haven't even kicked off college yet.
Well, here's the thing. Let's be honest. We don't consider, even though we all love high school football a lot, okay, we don't consider it football season until today, really.
That's right.
Until college football season gets started.
It's kind of like the first official day of summer, you know.
Yeah, you're right. And so now, okay, we're all beginning. Okay, football season started, and then everybody's sort of waking up and going, wait a minute, high school's been playing 3 weeks now. I mean, that's the thing that makes it interesting.
It is, and a lot of things have already kind of set the pace for high school. And last night it was rough for the county schools here as all 4 of them go down. Benjamin Russell, Horseshoe Bend, Reeltown, and Dable all fall last night here from Tallapoosa County. And obviously right here on 97.5 Kowaliga Country, it was Benjamin Russell and Opelika, and the game started off really well. Tyree Gray got off to his normal start that he's had the last 3 weeks with a big run, able to break through, make a guy miss, and score from a long way out, score a touchdown. And Nicole Maxwell had a long run of 50-plus yards to his credit that got Benjamin Russell on the board too. But we were up 20-17 at half. And Luke, there was a moment in that game where we were up 20-10. Opelika was backed up inside their own 10-yard line, and it was 3rd and 9. And we had a chance to, and when we brought pressure and give Jake Bentley credit, the quarterback for Opelika was able to buy some time and roll out, but threw a duck. I mean, floated a pass, and we had 2 guys in position, and we just, they were there. I mean, the ball was there for the taking. You could see it in the air. You're like, this is not going to even be close to making it to the receiver. We're going to pick this pass off. And somehow it went through both our guys, and he caught it up around the 50-yard line. It was a tremendous play. You give Jake Bentley credit the receiver for not giving up on the play. But it was kind of a demoralizing play for us there in that game because we were up 20-10. If we picked that ball off, there was nobody on that sideline. We were going to have a chance to return it at least a little bit, and we're going to be set up to have a field goal opportunity or maybe score another touchdown and possibly go up 27-10 on the road going into halftime. Luke, it was a good opportunity that didn't happen, but we were able to pick a pass off in the next possession to stop an Opelika drive that would have given them the lead going into half. But we took a 20-17 lead into halftime, felt pretty good about it, but Opelika came out and really dominated the line of scrimmage in the third quarter.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in those plays not necessarily happen for a reason, not that they're destined, nothing like that, but that winners make those plays. That's the hump when Benjamin Russell has to get over. You got to make that interception that you're talking about. I obviously didn't see it doing the scoreboard show. You were there. Yeah. You had a great vantage point. Benjamin Russell, if you want to get over the hump, if you want to be considered among the top teams in 6A, make that play. And I think that's what Coach Horner probably stressed this week is we're one play away. And it could be in the second quarter. It could be in the third quarter. It could be any time. Because really, you think about I was going to pick another play. That may have been the momentum changer right there. But I was going to call another one. When Benjamin Russell goes for it on the first drive.
That's right.
Coming out of halftime, they still have the lead 20-17.
That's right.
It's 4th and a half a yard.
Yeah, 4th and about a yard and a half.
Okay, yard and a half, whatever. And on the broadcast, I remember listening to you and Randy was saying, I don't think he got it. You thought he did because of the late surge. And in the end, it all comes down to where's the ref going to put the ball. That's the bottom line. But I think a winning team has got to say, I'm not going to make this ambiguous. I'm going to get 2 yards, and it's not going to be close. And I don't mean to call Benjamin Russell not a winning team. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I understand.
I'm saying that there is a small hill Benjamin Russell has to climb to be in the elite class.
And vice versa on that. The surge was there, and it was actually opposite of that. Randy thought he got it, and I didn't because he said, but that's fine. Here's why. Because the surge went 2 yards downfield. The surge was there, and here's an unfortunate break, and it's not an excuse, but Tyree, who is by far maybe one of the best players in the state of Alabama, I would challenge. He was the best player on that field last night on either team. And, I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, if you were telling me, do you want Jake Bentley or do you want Tyree Gray? I'm taking Tyree Gray all day long. No, and I'm taking my Benjamin Russell glasses off. It's not even close. He gives you so many options out there at quarterback. But, Luke, here's the crazy thing. Tyree, his foot slipped as he was making the surge. The line had already pushed 2 yards downfield. His foot slipped and his knee went down early as he was lunging forward, and that's what got him short, and that's what I was afraid of. So it wasn't a bad spot by the official. It wasn't that the line didn't block and make the surge. It was an unfortunate break, but I see exactly what you're saying. You got to figure out ways for that to go for you instead of against you. And we had our opportunities in the first half. But credit Opelika. Credit. True. I mean, they're a deep team. They've got a lot of talent. They were able to run the football and mix it up with the pass and keep us out on the edges. And you know, the design play, I told you this on the scoreboard show last night. Jake Bentley, Luke, you and I can sit back in the shotgun, and the plays are designed to get the ball out of his hands so quickly. There's really not much read to it. He's already got a predestined guy he's throwing to. Takes a snap, he spins, and he throws it to him, and it's 100% safe pass. Nobody's he's either going to catch it or drop it because we're playing 6-7 yards off the ball, and so you can't get to that receiver in time, so he's throwing it out little quick screens. Basically what that is a sweep play. And it's a pass, but it's like a sweep play from the running game, and it's just getting you out on the corners and getting you trying to get you out there blocked up like the receivers. The receivers did a good job for Opelika blocking downfield. So just the way it was, in the second half. I mean, there's really nothing else you can say is that they imposed their will on the front, and you look at the lines of scrimmage, and that's where they won the football game in the second half.
What was the score last year, Brett? Do you remember? It was close. Opelika won.
Yeah, they didn't score in this. That was the only game that Opelika didn't put a point on the board in the second half all year. But I can't remember. I'll go pull.
They had a big lead maybe, and Benjamin Russell came back. In the end, I think this is – I thought Opelika would win this game. I picked them to win it in the paper. Yeah. I'm impressed. I like Bentley. I know he does a lot of safe things, but I think there's a positivity to that, especially on the high school level. I like their running back, Josh Johnson, a lot. I think he's very strong. And they just seem to have a great mentality and chemistry on that team. But I do not, for the life of me, think that Benjamin Russell is 19 points away from Opelika. I think that this is a field goal game anywhere you cut it most of the time. If they play 10 times, I think Opelika would win 6, and it'd be an average around a 3-point victory for either team. Mm-hmm. That's what I think about this. But that's the difference. I think Benjamin Russell is just that close to being up there with the elite of 6A. And that's a huge deal because you think about who's the elite in 6A. Spanish Fort, Saraland, Clay Chalkville, obviously, and Opelika. Those are the 4 teams I would say are the best teams in 6A. Am I missing somebody?
No, you're not. I mean, we said this last night, And I think you're spot on there. And Benjamin Russell is a top 10 team in 6A. But you got to take one more step to get up into the top 5. And Benjamin Russell came into this game number 8. Opelika was number 4, and they solidified their ranking at number 4. They're a good football team. It's no excuses. I will say this, and you know this, Randy and I and our broadcast crew, we know, and we never call out officials. I mean, it's not an official's fault that things don't go your way sometimes, but there was a little stretch in there when we had momentum that all of a sudden the flag started to come out, and you make mention of that, and not just that shouldn't win or lose the game for you, okay, for either team. But what it does do is it affects the momentum of the game a little bit, because Randy, he said it about as bluntly as you could say it. We blitzed. We were going to get a sack on Bentley, and the guy just tackled our guy in wide open field. I mean, and they didn't throw the flag, and he was able to complete the pass on the sideline, and they eventually scored a touchdown. They missed a call on the goal line. Josh Johnson fumbled the ball, Luke. And the ball was out at the 1 yard line. We recovered it. It hit the official in the foot. The ball never crossed the plane. It was on WSFA last night. They had a vantage point of it. Somebody told me this morning. They said, "Did you see WSFA?" The ball's laying on the ground. Yeah. They gave them a touchdown there. I mean, those are 2 big monstrous plays in the game where they ended up scoring touchdowns.
Right.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I get it, and it's frustrating when you're on the other side, and I certainly have cussed my fair share of officials, but in the end, I think you just got to overcome it one way or the other. Because
I prefaced that. I said it shouldn't cause you to win or lose the game, but it is tough when you're playing a tough opponent. But and then the calls could have gone against Opelika too.
Sure, they could.
I mean, it could have gone either way, but I'm just saying.
I'm sure the Opelika broadcast team looks at it and says, "Oh, Benjamin Russell held on this play," and yada yada yada.
Of course. And there was one other play, and I'll say this, and here's the and I got a text. The score last year was 23-0. And you know, they hit 2 big plays to really expand that. That's to where it was, but they ended up, they ended up not scoring the second half. But Luke, there was a play where we would have gotten a first down, and from a penalty, they had too many men on the field. They threw 2 officials through the flag. Opelika calls timeout, and the head official waves the flag off. How does that happen?
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that.
How in the world does that happen? I mean, that's just a totally blown call by an official. You can't pick the flag up just because the team calls timeout. But anyway, we're up against the first break. We'll run down scores from around the area. Talk about the Dable Tigers last night. Not the way they wanted things to go for them, certainly as well. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Mama don't want to see you down here too.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard, Luke Robinson with you till noon. Taking your calls, 256-234-6221. Our prediction is Alabama and Wisconsin tonight at 7 o'clock. Get your call in. We'd love to have your prediction on the plate. Tiebreaker is Derrick Henry rushing yards, so make sure you get your call in, 256-234-6221. You can go to our Facebook page and submit your prediction there, or you can tweet us. So a lot of different ways now to interact on sports call-in shows, Luke, and we've been doing this for quite a while now. A lot of our fans choosing to go the social media route, so you don't necessarily have to pick the phone up to call us, but we'd love for you to. We'd love for you to join us here at JR Sports Bar and Grill as well. Get ready for a full day of college football. Luke, you were on the scoreboard last night. We'll continue high school discussion here. Some shocking scores. We'll start right here from the area, and we'll just run it down. Beauregard, 68-33 winners over Dayville. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Not the fact that Beauregard couldn't beat Dayville, but to the level of where Beauregard put 68 points up on Dayville. Sean D. did go out in the first half. Obviously, he was having a great night. I was able to talk to our buddy Kevin Keel. He was having an outstanding night. It was a back-and-forth affair between Dayville and Beauregard. And then when he went out, look, in high school, it is what it is. And in college, it is what it is. You lose your best player, Luke, you really behind the eight ball. When he went out, really put Dayville behind the eight ball. And, again, not taking anything away from Beauregard, but if Sean D's in that ball game, not saying Dayville would have won the game, but they would have been right there with Beauregard, I feel like. So
if I had told you going into yesterday afternoon, you got it where you want it. If I had told you going into yesterday afternoon that Horseshoe Bend, Benjamin Russell, Reeltown, and Dadeville would give up 186 combined points, you would have thought I was crazy. You would have thought I was out of my mind. And I guess Dadeville gave up about a third of those. I mean, that's
amazing.
That's incredible. But yeah, I can't believe it. And even with Sean Jennings out, I find it hard to believe Dadeville gave up 68 points. But again, we talked about it last night on the scoreboard show while the BRHS game was going on with the Opelika thing. Sometimes it can just start snowballing. You get down 2 scores, and all of a sudden you get in desperation mode. You throw a pick six, or you have a turnover.
Well, it changes your game plan. Yeah. And you try to change things to try to catch up, and sometimes they can. It's like being at the blackjack table. I'm gonna double up this trip and try to get my money back. And then what you do is you just dig yourself an even bigger hole.
Well, it's somebody always told me about roulette. You look up there and you say it's been red 17 times straight. Yeah. And you're gonna put it all on black. Now the odds are still the same on this next time around. So, anybody that sits there and tries to scientifically figure out a roulette wheel, you're wasting your time. Let's go to the phone lines. Jerome in Alex City, you're on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Yes, sir. I want to tell you one thing. The best game of the night last night was Lafayette and Reeltown. I'm telling you, Reeltown was ahead. They got the ball. They kick off to Lafayette. Lafayette fumbled the ball, and Reeltown got and scored. And then they missed the extra point. And then Lafayette got the ball. They drove down. They scored, and they missed the extra point. But anyway, make it so exciting. We were behind like 22, 24 to like 12 at halftime. Okay, it was dead in Lafayette. That was my hometown vote. And, man, I got the holler. I guess I would tell them horse. But, man, they came back in the second half. And I'll tell you, Reeltown had Lafayette 34 to like 24. Okay. And then Lafayette got to go. We got to pepper them up. It was a game, and Lafayette got offside kick. They came back out, and then they got the ball again. And like I said, it was a great game. And if y'all want to highlight something, y'all need to highlight the Lafayette boys. You talking about something going on, man. It was going on in Lafayette, Alabama last night, because it was one of the greatest games that I've seen, and that Lafayette ever came back and beat a team like, especially Reeltown. I told him, I said, they got a coach, they ain't got a coach over there that wins games like that. I don't ever know Reeltown lost 2 games in a row like that. But I don't know, maybe y'all know, but it was a great game.
Well, Jerome, I don't think we have to highlight it. You just gave us the full play-by-play. I dig it.
It was a complete synopsis of the entire game. So, you there, Jerome?
You there, buddy?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, well, we appreciate the entire synopsis of the game, and that was great. And you know, again, Lafayette, that was a big win for them. And
I'm gonna hang up and listen to y'all, but like I said, it was a great game. But like I said, they're undefeated right now. They're 2-0, and they got to go and play Horseshoe Bend next week. Lafayette does, and I think Reeltown be off. But I'm going to listen to y'all. Roll Tide, better.
All right,
there
Jerome.
we go. And, I mean, you know, Jerome, when he calls, he's going to get he's going to get it all in a short amount of time, and he did. But hey, look,
it's not time for sports call Tuesday.
His Bulldogs defeated Reeltown. So when we come back, we'll continue to wrap up these scores from around the area, give you some scores from around the state, and then head into college football. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Clear. And then they got the ball. And then they ran.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown here at JR Sports Bar and Grill. We'll be with you till noon. A beautiful Saturday here in Alexander City. We'd love for you to call in 256-234-6221. Luke.
First of all, does it look like Greg McElroy has a bowl full of rutabagas on his head?
Whoever, there's supposed to be somebody there prepping those guys and getting them ready. And somebody should have stepped up for his sake and said, hey, man, you need to go change this.
Well, real quickly, let me tell you, we mentioned roulette earlier. I got a pretty good roulette story from one of my Vegas trips back about 15 years ago. I got a buddy in Birmingham, and we were there, just he and I. And, Vegas is one of those things where you lose track of time. I think I'd gone to bed about 2 p.m, and got a phone call to my room. And he said, Luke, get down here. I've figured out roulette. And I thought to myself, there are mathematicians all over this great world. Yet this guy that I know that can't count to 21, he has told me that he's figured out roulette. So I run downstairs, and what he had done, and I kid you not, he had a bunch of chips, probably had $400 worth of chips, and he put random amounts on every number on the board. They're 38 numbers with the 0 and double zero.
That's right.
And so every time he won, every time he got money back, but, they only pay you 35-1 when you hit. That's right. It just so happened for a little while, the random numbers he was putting on were hitting the bigger numbers. He was hitting those. But then as soon as that karma catches up with you and you begin only hitting, the ones you only have 1 or 2 chips on, he started losing money, and all of a sudden he hadn't figured it out so much.
He figured it out. Well, and also, and I'm not going to obviously mention any names in this, but a coaching friend of ours, I'm not going to mention what school either, was telling us a story not too long ago about an assistant coach that he was new to the staff, and they were in there, and they'd been watching film, for probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he steps up and he goes, guys, I got this thing figured out. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And he says, well, I've got this thing figured out. He said, watch. He said, on this play, they either going to throw or they're going to run. And everybody's like, and he said it as dead serious as he could be. And everybody in the room's like,
it's a good call.
We now have the answer to all the problems in football. We got it. There's nobody out there that can beat us anymore. We've got this thing licked. So it is funny to hear somebody and some of the things that are said sometimes, but we want to hear from you. 256-234-6221. Do we have a phone call? Do we have a phone call out there, Daniel? Obviously not, but we are hearing something in the background. I don't know if we're here in the studio or not, but just an FYI there. But give us a call, 256-234-6221. The scores from last night around the area again: the Wildcats fall to Opelika 45-26. Dable falls to Beauregard 68-33. Horseshoe Bend, in a close game with Annette, had a chance there, loses 33-25. As you just heard Jerome's synopsis, Lafayette comes from behind to beat Reeltown 40-34.
You just listened to the Reeltown Lafayette game in 3.5 minutes.
That's exactly right. So if you missed it, you were able to catch it this morning. Fultondale holds on to win against Central Coosa 56-42. And look, I know Central Coosa is 0-2, but let me just say something. They are much improved, Luke. This team has been competitive in both first games, had a chance to win both of them. I'm proud for the momentum they've got over there. They've got the offensive coordinator from Childersburg. He's really brought, obviously, a new day to Central Coosa. And he's getting a lot out of those guys. It won't be long before they turn the corner.
Well, and that's what I told JJ last night on the scoreboard show. I said, look, Coosa lost last week maybe by a point or two.
By 1 point.
And then this week they play a Fultondale team
that blew them out last year.
Right. And Fultondale has Ardarius Stewart's brother on there who's committed to South Alabama. He's a very strong player. 2 years ago, Coosa loses this game 56-0.
That's exactly right.
And now they're losing 56-42. Yeah, there's work to be done, but lots of times you don't go from 0-10 to 10-0 very often. Only a la Dadeville.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only time it's ever happened in state history. So it doesn't happen very often. Elmore County with a 53-22 win over Holtville. And I know we've mentioned this. Edgewood 61, Glenwood nothing. They've won 61 straight games now. Luke, I mean, at what point in time do they decide that they're going to get out of AISA and move into the HSA? I mean, and I'm not cutting them down. I mean, it's a tremendous feat. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know when the last time they had a competitive football game. So, at what point in time does the non-challenging effect of your team start to take hold? We all want to win. I'd much rather be on the 61 side than the 0 side. But, I mean, come on, man. I mean,
it reminds me when you play Madden or the old NCAA football games on your Xbox, and you stack your team and you play the junior varsity, and you go through and you go undefeated, and everybody's got 1,000 yards rushing and everything. Where's the fun in that? If you're not challenged, that's why the SEC is so much fun. Every week is a challenge, except Vandy.
Except for Vanderbilt. Yeah. They may be vacating soon. So, I mean, but I'm not taking anything away from Edgewood. That's a great feat, what they've got going. But Glenwood is not a bad football team in AISA, and they didn't even – I don't guess they even came close to scoring last night. 61-0, 61 straight wins for Edgewood Academy down in Elmore County. So,
and this team should have Prince Tega still on it.
Well, Prince Tega, exactly. They've got another transfer in. Their quarterback is from Canada, who came down here as a hot shot quarterback, maybe one of the top quarterbacks in the state now. I would love to see them play a Madison Academy. I would love to see them play a Briarwood Christian or somebody like that and see where they stack up. I think we would have a really good idea. I think it would be a great football game. So, but anyway, those are some scores from around the area. We'll run a few more scores down a little bit later on, but we'll be diving into college football here shortly. I do want to say let's go ahead and run a few of these down before we go to break, and we'll start in 7A. And you got Phoenix City, who was up 21-0 on Auburn, and then ended up having to go to overtime, winning 27-24. Gadsden City put a lot of points on the board last night. They put 66 on the board against Sparkman. Jeff Davis, much improved, 34-7 over Enterprise. Look, we're starting to see the Montgomery schools turn it around a little bit.
We've been begging for it.
And it's coming. Robert E. Lee has been impressive first couple of weeks. Here's a game that we talked about last night during the game at Benjamin Russell. Hoover 21, Mountain Brook 14. What's your thoughts on that game?
Well, Hoover was up 14-0, and they actually went up 21-0, got a holding call, brought it back, and that sort of turned the game around a little bit. I think Mountain Brook ended up tying the game, and then Mountain Brook had the ball, driving. I say driving. They were about on their own 35, and Hoover picks them off with about 5 minutes left. Hoover's able to capitalize, take it in. They end up winning 21-14. But this was a huge win, or huge kind of win. Win in a figurative sense for Mountain Brook. Obviously, they didn't win on the scoreboard, but I think that if you're Mountain Brook, this is going to give you a lot of confidence because this Hoover team had beaten 2 out-of-state teams that were powerhouses.
Manatee, Florida last week.
Right, and then I think another team out of Tennessee.
That's right.
So they're 3-0.
Oakland,
Tennessee. Or Oakman or something like that, whatever. But they've won 40 straight games in the state of Alabama, and Hoover gave them all Mountain Brook gave them all they wanted last night. Huge, fantastic job for the Mountain Brook Spartans. I know a lot of Mountain Brook folks were proud.
Yeah, they had to be. Spain Park squeaks out a win against Thompson, 15-14. They've got Mark Freeman over at Thompson High School now, who was the head coach at Spanish Fort. So things starting to turn around a little bit there, but not able to get the win. In 6A, here's a team that really is baffling me right now. Carver Montgomery 30, Carroll of Ozark 27. And the last time Benjamin Russell played Carroll of Ozark a couple of years ago, Luke, it could have been 80-90-0. I mean, it really could have. And Carver's been a powerhouse. They played Bob Jones very tough in the opening the Champions Challenge, but since then were killed last week in a game, and then this week had to go to overtime to beat Carroll of Ozark. I'm just really shocked right now.
Well, it wasn't just that they went to overtime. They had to score with 1 second left, and they got the ball with 34 seconds left, down 8, Brett. And they drive about halfway down the field, end up scoring a touchdown. And then Mac Wilson, the linebacker, he throws a 2-point conversion to a kid named Xavier Lane, I believe. They tie the game.
It's Xavier Lane.
And then they go to overtime, and Carroll kicks a field goal, and Carver ends up scoring a touchdown. So, it went from what could have been disastrous. I was all prepared to ask Josh Bean last night on the scoreboard show, what in the world is wrong with Carver? Turns out they come back and win. This could be something that gets them on the right track.
Yeah, we'll see. It just hasn't looked very, very good for them so far. Clay Chalkville, the number one team in 6A, a 1-point win over Hillcrest, Luke, last night, 41-40. Hillcrest Tuscaloosa gave Opelika all they wanted. I know it shows up as 0-2 on their record, but they're 1-2 now. But lost to Opelika and now lost to Clay Chalkville, but played them both extremely close.
Yeah, and Hillcrest has a running back. I believe his name is Brian Robinson, no relation, and he is very, very strong. He ended up with, I think, well over 200 yards last night, perhaps. He's a good player. He's going to be a prospect, and but Clay Chalkville still rolling right along. Nico Collins caught a touchdown. TJ Simmons caught a touchdown. They're going to be a tough out, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're going to take a break here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. When we come back, a few more scores and dive into college football. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Clear. All right, gentlemen. In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard and Luke Robinson here with you till noon today. Give us a call, 256-234-6221. The prediction score this week, all week on all of our programs, has been Alabama-Wisconsin, tiebreaker Derrick Henry. We'll also take your Auburn prediction with Louisville. That game kicks off at 2:30. The tiebreaker there is Rock Thomas, rushing yard. So we definitely want to hear from you. Give us a call. Get that prediction in. Hit us up on Twitter or Facebook as well. You can submit it there. JR Sports Bar and Grill is the place to be all college football season for all your tailgate needs, anything that you need to put on the best party at your house. Come get your food right here. 256-329-2328 is the number. They'll deliver it to your house, or you can come in and pick that up, or you can eat it right here inside JR Sports Bar and Grill with all the TVs on the wall. You can watch all your favorite teams throughout college football and NFL season. NFL season right around the corner. Luke, you and I are the two NFL gurus of all of our bunch. Really, nobody else is as interested in NFL as we are. So we'll talk NFL a little bit later on in the program, but it is the start of college football today for Alabama and Auburn fans. So we're excited about that. There are some other games on tap. I'm looking forward to the Arizona State Texas A&M game, which will be at 6 o'clock. Texas and Notre Dame will be at 6:30. The only thing I hate about all these is they're all sandwiched in there together. I mean, it's kind of like bowl season a little bit, opening day. These networks are going against one another, so they want a high-profile game. ESPN will have the Arizona State Texas A&M game. Notre Dame, Texas will be on NBC, and Wisconsin, Alabama will be on ABC. And then CBS, obviously, is ahead of all of them. They'll start at 2:30 with Auburn and Louisville. So go back to Thursday first. We'll start there, and then we'll work our way in. Two SEC teams already with a game under their belt. One with a win, one with a loss, but neither one of them looked really good. We'll start with South Carolina and North Carolina. South Carolina ekes out a win there, and really North Carolina shot themselves in the foot, in which gave the South Carolina team an opportunity to win the game. South Carolina, we go back through our predictions. We all made our predictions of who we think is going to finish where, and I'm telling you, man, I think it's going to be a long season for South Carolina.
Yeah, I do too. I think they just don't really have any weapons. I mean, outside of Pharaoh Cooper, and North Carolina.
He only caught 3 passes.
Yeah, North Carolina. Now, Steve Spurrier did try and get him the ball in the Wildcat, and he moved the ball successfully that way, but you're going to get your wide receiver killed.
That's exactly right.
You just got to find another way to get him the ball, I think, in space, one-on-one kind of thing. You let a wide receiver go back there, and he's always having to run into the line. I mean, it's going to be a dangerous thing, and you don't want to lose the one guy that appears to have game-breaking ability for you. But South Carolina is going to have some trouble. I don't think there's any doubt about it. They were incredibly fortunate. They, of course, had the one linebacker that had 2 interceptions in the end zone. That was incredibly bizarre. It was one of those games where North Carolina seemed to have it the whole time. The whole time. No matter the score, you felt like North Carolina was outplaying them. And then lo and behold, the game's over, and you look up and South Carolina's won it. You kind of stole one. But I always say, Brett, you only play your best game 2 or 3 times a year. You play your worst game 1 or 2 times a year, and everything in between, just try and eke out a win whenever you can. And so South Carolina got one of those eked out wins. I don't think they played their best game. They certainly didn't play their worst game. They certainly didn't play their best game. But let's see what happens with them going forward. But I don't feel nothing in that game made me feel good if I'm a South Carolina fan.
No, not at all. Because I don't see a lot of room of where I'm going to gain a lot of offense. You got uncertainty at quarterback. Got some talent back there at tailback, but if anything you take away from it, maybe South Carolina's defense a little bit better than last year, so you maybe build off of that if you're a Gamecock fan. The other team that's already played in the SEC is Vanderbilt, and, I mean, I don't know if they win a game. This was one of the lock wins that we all gave Vanderbilt against Western Kentucky, and we were all a little iffy with the lock win there, but that was the lock win, that one of their lock wins, and then guess what? They lost one of their lock wins. So I don't see very many opportunities for Vanderbilt to even pull out a victory this year, Luke.
I'll tell you, if we had these picks in the paper, I would have picked Western Kentucky. I really would have. I don't think Vanderbilt's got a thing. I don't think they have one thing going. And the way they lost that game too, they come back, they end up scoring a touchdown. Then on the 2-point conversion, it's really not a well-thought-out play. They don't give anybody a chance. They get the ball in the hands of somebody that doesn't seem to be a dynamic playmaker. And, man, They just don't have it. It's just not working. It's one of those things where you get into a relationship and about 3 weeks into it, you're like, this isn't working, but you still drag it out for another 6 months. I mean, this how this feels with this coach at Vandy, that we've all seen this isn't going to work, and yet Vanderbilt's still trying and giving him a chance, and he's made himself the coordinator, and he's the head coach too. I mean,
he's the only
my guess is he just wants to increase hhis 401k as best he can before he gets fired at the end of the year, because he's getting fired.
12 points against Western Kentucky. So just an embarrassment for the SEC, to be honest with you. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it is the truth. Let's run down the slate of games today for SEC schools. Actually, we won't do that. We'll go to a break, and then we'll come back. We will run down the slate of SEC games today. Not a lot of high-profile games outside of the Alabama and the Auburn game. So we'll come back. We'll run those down. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Clear.
All right, gentlemen. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard and Luke Robinson with you till noon today. Give us a call, 256-234-6221. Prediction score is Alabama-Wisconsin. Give us a call. Tiebreaker is Derrick Henry. we'll dive into college football as we started talking about it a little bit last segment. Games on tap today for the SEC. Louisiana Monroe and Georgia about to kick off here in about 8 minutes. Shouldn't be a problem for the Bulldogs. Ole Miss and Tennessee Martin will play also at 11 o'clock. Both of those games will be on the SEC Network. Ole Miss favored by 39 and Georgia by 34 in that particular matchup. At 2:30, Arkansas will take the field and take on UTEP. They're a 31.5-point favorite. Auburn and Louisville at 2:30 on CBS. Auburn is a 10-point favorite in that ball game. Missouri, Southeast Missouri State at 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. Tennessee against Bowling Green at 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. Tennessee favored by 22. Kentucky, a 16.5-point favorite over Louisiana Lafayette. A game of note, Texas A&M and Arizona State. Texas A&M is favored by 2 points. Arizona State is ranked 15th in the country. Texas A&M is not ranked, but Texas A&M garnering the 2-point favorite there from Vegas. That game will be played in Texas. So I'm interested to see how that game matches up, Luke. I like Arizona State. I picked Arizona State in the paper. I think Arizona State's got a lot of talent, obviously, but the Texas A&M team is loaded as well. They'll have Kyle Allen back as their quarterback. We'll see how it all plays out later on tonight or later on this afternoon at 6 o'clock on ESPN. You look at those two teams, one ranked, one not. Kirk Herbstreit came out and really feels highly about Arizona State. This could be a benchmark game this early in the season for Texas A&M to kind of set the bar, because a little disrespected, I feel like, in the polls coming into this season. A lot of people are like, why are they not ranked and all this kind of stuff? They probably are going to be playing this game with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I think they should be. Here's the thing. Arizona State's ranked 15th. Texas A&M is unranked, and Texas A&M is a 3-point favorite. I'm going with Vegas, and I'm going with my SEC homerism. Yeah. I don't mind saying that I'm pulling for A&M. Look, there's some teams, obviously. You'll pull for Wisconsin tonight. I'll probably pull for Louisville. But everybody else,
will pull for Louisville.
I'm going to pull for Louisville.
How about take probably?
But, well, I do. I'll tell you what, Brett, having been up here and done this, I do like it more when the SEC does well. My SEC pride is beginning to creep up to my Auburn hatred. I mean, honestly, that's the way it is. I mean, I'm kind of like, gosh, do I really want Auburn to lose this game so that ACC people can say, well, it really do their SEC mocking chant? I don't want that.
It's really started to become that way if you want to look at it from a wide perspective. Now, I know there's certain fans out there you're not even going to convince. They would rather lose to everybody other than either Alabama or Auburn, because that's just the way this rivalry is. But it has really become a conference per conference basis, and point your finger at, see, I told you you're not as good as you think. You're not as powerful as we thought. In this Big Ten, and everybody rallies together, and, the Pac-12, see, we're going to prove to you tonight. I just like Arizona State because I think they're a team that, even though ranked 15th, has a lot of talent, and they're going to come after Texas A&M, but we'll see how it all plays out.
I love A&M's wide receivers. I love Myles Garrett. I think he's going to put – and, they got Chavis in there now, and I feel like he's going to do some things. Again, I'm pro A&M. I'm bullish on A&M. I could there are some folks out there that have predicted A&M to make the playoff.
Yeah, I know. And I'm going to say one other thing, too, on the flip side. One thing on the flip side of that is Texas A&M. I have no love lost for them either. They're a Western Division rival opponent for us. I don't mind them going ahead and taking a chink in the armor. I know here's the SEC homerism stuff. I know we talk about it, but if it's already tough enough for us in the West as it is, and if they've got to fall, then so be it. And I know it's not a conference game, but I mean, I'm not going to cry if they lose. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, except that I think I don't mind A&M losing in conference. I want them to beat Arizona State. I really do. And I mean this truthfully, that I was thinking about this last night that, okay, what if Louisville were to win? Well, gosh, that would make things pretty awful, because people have been very high on Auburn. In the ESPN's predictions, more people predicted Auburn to go to the playoff than they did Alabama by 2 or 3 games, I think, by 2 or 3 people. And so do I really want to hear next week all on Feinbaum and callers into our show and everything else about how the ACC beat the SEC again? I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. And, again, when it comes down to it, I think it's really become a matchup of conferences versus, your teams, and you almost take care of your own inside. Well, we can talk about each other, but you can't talk about us.
It is
kind of mentality. You know how that goes.
That's a very Southern thing too.
That's it. It's a very Southern thing. 256-234-6221 to be part of the program. A couple more minutes here before the top of the hour break. Again, Texas A&M will come into this game, as you said, with talent and really no explanation of why they haven't been given the respect they have pretty much deserved. I mean, because they've recruited well, had a very similar season to the season Auburn had. They beat Auburn head-to-head last year, so a lot of people just kind of scratching their head. One more game to talk about there. Actually, a couple more games. Florida, New Mexico State, no problem there for the Gators, you think. But hold your breath. LSU, McNeese State tonight at 6:30. We've already said that we'll talk a lot about Alabama, Wisconsin in the next segment. And then Mississippi State and Southern Miss get started at 9 o'clock. Mississippi State's a 20-point favorite, but 9 p.m. on Fox Sports 1.
In Hattiesburg.
I mean,
that's not – well, it gives me something to watch the end of after the Alabama game. But Desmond Howard did just pick Louisville to beat Auburn. But Desmond Howard isn't really a fan of the SEC in general, I think, historically. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick Wisconsin right here either.
Well, I mean, the two teams that I think are on upset alert, the two teams on upset alert are Texas A&M and Auburn, I think, with opponent. Now, Wisconsin. Now, we'll talk about Alabama, Wisconsin, but Wisconsin, several players hurt, several players out. But Alabama's quarterback situation, I don't think they're going to have to do much. But I'm ready to see what happens with this quarterback situation. Who are they going to run out there? Does Jake Coker throw a couple interceptions? Does he even have to throw the football? What happens with Alabama quarterback situation?
What I said, it looks like Jake Coker will be the starter, and so be it. It's not my call. That's not the direction I would go. But Nick Saban gets paid a lot more money than I do to do what he's done, and he's been very successful. But I'm almost pro Jake Coker starting, if only because I think we'll have a lot of 3-and-outs, and then I get to see the beautiful J.K. Scott go out there and do his thing. I mean, I think he's the best punter Alabama's ever had. I think they're going to rename the Ray Guy Award after him. I mean, I think he's incredible, and I love watching him do his thing. So, hey, at least if Jake Coker starts, I believe Alabama will be in a lot of 3-and-outs, and I'll get to see J.K. Scott.
What is Paul Feinbaum doing in an Arkansas jersey getting dunked in a pool?
He looks
like a wet rat.
He looks like he looks like a bobblehead.
And they're throwing footballs at him in this pool. I mean, amazing stuff.
There's just not enough water in there.
There's just nowhere near enough water. Give us a call, 256-234-6221. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Electrical and plumbing supplies. Russell Dewitt Center Stores deliver first-class service, top-rate products, and competitive good best pricing.
Another weekend? Okay, all right, here we go. 3, 2.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown.
I was wondering if you were going to let that roll.
Sports Bar and Grill. I was going to let you have a little Chicago this morning for your brunch here at JR's. 11:05 on the clock, and we've got about 50 minutes left in today's show. Make sure you come on out to JR's Sports Bar and Grill. Give us a call, 256-234-6221. Run down, or we just ran down the slate of games for the SEC teams. Any of those games outside the SEC interest you today? Does that Texas Notre Dame game interest you whatsoever, Luke?
Texas A&M does. None of the other SEC games do, although, you know,
outside of the conference, Texas Notre Dame, anything outside of the conference.
Nah, Texas Notre Dame doesn't do a lot for me. And I'll tell you why. This Texas team just doesn't seem to have it for me. And I don't think they've necessarily fully bought into what Charlie Strong is selling yet. For Charlie Strong to be successful, he's going to have the lunch pail guys, and Texas seems to have gotten the five-star prima donnas, and you have to work some of that out of them. I mean, you see it at Alabama a lot because they get a lot of five-stars, that they'll have some guys that it never gets worked out of them, and they end up transferring or doing their thing. D-Liner is the kind of guy. I mean, God bless him. I want D-Liner to go on and do well, but I think that there were some things that couldn't get worked out for whatever reason. And I think Texas has a bunch of those guys, and Mac Brown didn't do enough with them. And now Charlie Strong has come in and said, be super respectful to women all the time, which seems like a no-brainer thing, but sometimes you got to relearn some of these things. Always work hard, always no cussing, no this, no that. And when you go in there and you try to change a culture that dramatically, it can be difficult, and it doesn't feel like Texas, the players have bought into that yet. But I guess we'll see tonight. I'm not super high on their prospects for beating Notre Dame this evening. Notre Dame has bought in. Yeah,
I think they have, and I expect Notre Dame. I don't feel the same about Notre Dame I did just 3 years ago when they played Alabama in a national championship game when we all felt like it was smoke and mirrors, and Alabama proved it was. They were ahead of schedule. They were a fortunate team that year to run off the games that they ran off, but when they got up against a real opponent, they got embarrassed. Virginia Tech, Ohio State. This was the loss of the season for Ohio State last year. Anyway, that's pulled off again 2 years in a row, Luke?
No, I don't think so. I think Ohio State had this game circled, and that's probably pretty cliche. Everybody's got every game circled. If you don't, you could lose any week. But I just don't think Virginia Tech has the horses to run with Ohio State. Ohio State is uber talented. I was looking at ESPN, the little scroll this morning, and they were talking about Mel Kiper's draft picks from the potential draft picks from the Big Ten, and 6 first-rounders projected from Ohio State, and Virginia Tech's not going to have a 1, as far as I know. Maybe Kendall Fuller.
I just don't think that Bosa, is he suspended?
Yeah, he'll be out this game.
So he's out this game. I mean, so not that I don't think will matter this time, but Virginia Tech just kind of caught lightning in a bottle last year. That will not happen again. Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country, coming off a national championship win against Oregon, will get the season started off right. We'll start off now and dive in, spend the rest of the show talking about Alabama and Wisconsin, Auburn and Louisville. We'll start with Auburn because that game's at 2:30. It's in the Georgia Dome. The point spread is 10 for Auburn. We had a writer from the Louisville Courier-Journal on Sports Call yesterday afternoon to talk about Louisville. Their defense is loaded with a bunch of transfers, man, and a couple guys from Georgia that are on that team. Josh Harvey Clemens, the Shaq Wiggins, the cornerback. They've got a transfer from TCU who was the Big 12 Player of the Year, a controversial guy that came in. It's a big-time defensive line player that was released from TCU for domestic violence. Again, we've seen and heard about that a bunch over the last 2 years. But they've got some really good players on that defense. And, so Auburn, the matchup to me, I think you watch is that Auburn offensive line versus the defensive front and the linebacking core for TCU. And if can Auburn keep Jeremy Johnson protected and give him plenty of time to survey the field? And if they do, Louisville's going to be in trouble because Jeremy Johnson's going to pick their eyeballs out. So that's just the way it is. But if they can find a way to get pressure on Auburn and pressure on Jeremy Johnson, they could swing the momentum a little bit and limit the number of possessions that Auburn will actually have. But your thoughts on that, Luke?
I think Devontae Fields may be the key to the game for Louisville. I mean, if he doesn't get pressure on Jeremy Johnson, I think it's over. It's a blowout win.
Yeah.
He's got to be able to get back there. And that's going to be one of the keys for Auburn throughout the season, their offensive line. They are moderately decorated. I mean, Sean Coleman had the 5 stars, but then nobody knew about the cancer, et cetera. And that's been an issue for him coming back. I watched that Texas A&M Auburn game was on about 30 times in a row in August on the SEC Network. And I watched that over and over. And he had trouble containing somebody coming off the edge. And Fields has that kind of ability. So has he gotten better there? What's going to go on with the center position? Auburn had the best center in the country last year. Mm-hmm. And so you lose that guy, and now you got a new quarterback too, so there's got to be a whole new chemistry. But I look for Auburn to end up pulling away late in this ball game, probably winning by 10, 14 points.
Get your call in, get your prediction in, 256-234-6221. Auburn, Louisville, Alabama, Wisconsin. Auburn, again, favored by 10 in this game. Rock Thomas will get the nod as the starting tailback. I think all of us have been high on Rock Thomas since he played at Oxford High School, injured his knee his junior year. A lot of people wanted to think that he might just sit out. I remember the AL.com article, trying to start some kind of a buzz about seniors that are high-profile recruits sitting out their senior year and just waiting for – and I couldn't disagree anymore. I think you start dummying down the system and start thinking way into this. But Rock Thomas obviously has shown he can survive a knee injury in high school and come back and live up to billing. He's going to get the nod as the starting tailback in a pretty deep backfield for Auburn back there with Peyton Barber and Javon Robinson. Kerryon Johnson really not listed there. They only listed 3 deep. But he's back there, have a chance as a true freshman. I don't think they want to even think about getting to him if they don't have to. But some newcomers on the side of the defense. Randy and I ran those down yesterday on Sports Call. All the newcomers we want to see are over on that defense. I'm excited about Blake Countess at cornerback, the transfer from Michigan. I think he adds a lot of experience immediately to a secondary that needs it. I'm excited about Byron Cowart, Luke, the number 1 defensive player in the country. I think he's going to definitely get some reps at defensive end. Just a lot of guys on that defensive side of the ball that we're excited to see as Auburn fans. Trey Matthews getting the start at safety and maybe a Tim Irvin that came in. I think there's a lot of people that's high on Tim Irvin back there in the secondary. We're going to see some new guys that Auburn fans have not seen yet.
Yeah, I agree. And then going back to the knee situation for a minute, that's one thing that I'm with you on that. It always bugs me. I'm not going to let my kid play football. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Or he should just sit out. Well, I guess you can treat life that way. Just bubble wrap yourself and don't do anything, and then next thing you know, you're 72 years old. You got to get out there and try it and go out there and just do it. You don't want Rock Thomas to look back when you've had as much talent as that kid has had and say, man, I wish I had played my senior year at Oxford. I wish I had done that. Yeah, you don't want to live with that kind of regret, in my opinion. You might get hurt, but you might get hurt walking down the steps today. The whole thing. And look at Cam Sims at Alabama, the wide receiver, hurt himself in the spring, ACL. He may play today. That's how far we've come with the technology and the medical advancements. I think that, it's one of those things where injuries are part of any game and life.
I totally agree with you 100%. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Alabama and Wisconsin at 7 o'clock tonight. Get your thoughts on that. Get your predictions. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Clear.
The world is ever changing. Make sure your choices are the right choices. At Central Alabama Community College, you'll know you made the best choice. Whether choosing a technical degree.
of Auburn?
Not that I know of. They're working on the Florida State game.
Yeah.
And in Tallahassee, but and actually not in Tallahassee,
In
but
Orlando.
it's in Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville,
actually.
that's
So not to my knowledge. So look, I think it's a fad right now in college football. The neutral site things, because I've been hearing a lot more people say I'd much rather have a home and home with these teams, and I think that's just the trend. I think you'll start to see it come back. I mean, I liked it when Southern Cal came to Auburn and we went out there to play them. So instead of meeting somewhere in the middle, so to say, and having some type of neutral site game, but that seems to be the trend right now, and it'll eventually turn its way back to the other side. Well,
probably. And again, I would love to go to I love to go into Penn State back in 2010. I thought that was a lot of fun, but in the end, I think that these neutral site games are fun as well. I'm already looking forward to next year. But let's go back to Wisconsin just for a second. And what can Wisconsin do? I think the best thing they can do is try and make their hay defensively. They will have an opportunity. Alabama is notorious in some of these games to give up long kickoff returns, punt returns. You got Jake Coker back there who has thrown some pick sixes in practices. I mean, that's kind of what he's known for. Yeah. He could throw some today. They have inexperience at wide receiver. I mean, this is not an infallible Alabama team by any stretch of the imagination. So I think Wisconsin's going to make their hay, not so much on offense, because I am very high on this Alabama defense. I feel very confident about that. And Wisconsin has problems along their offensive line. So I think they're going to need to make their way on special teams and defensively.
Wisconsin, I mean, it's a name, and I know they beat Auburn last year in the bowl game, and you can take that back as a confidence builder for them, and a situation but they lost some key players off that team. They've got some guys injured. I just don't see them having much of a chance in this game. I mean, again, I know you can't blame Alabama because when they schedule the game, it's a known game, but it just seems like once again, and I'm not trying to be a homer here, but it just seems like once again Alabama is catching a break with a named team not living up to their billing. And that's not Alabama's fault. It's just the other team not taking care of their business. I mean, so these neutral site games and these opponents that Alabama has scheduled, when they schedule them, man, it looks really good. But by the time the game rolls around, it's like, well, what happened to them? So I'm not saying that Wisconsin is not going to come out and put up a fight. But I think even with the quarterback controversy and the issues with Alabama, everybody's still expecting Alabama to win this game with ease. So we'll see when they step on the field at 7:00 tonight. But I'm expecting Alabama to pull away.
I am too. And the funny thing is, you look at through the years since Nick Saban's been there, they opened up with Florida State in Jacksonville, but that game was played in the middle of the year. It wasn't kind of the same thing. Yeah. And then you go back to that 2008 game against Clemson. I think heading into a preseason, that 2008 Clemson team people thought was going to be an incredible team. Turns out they weren't very good, but it propelled Alabama to where they are now. Then they played Virginia Tech in 2009. They had the home and home with Penn State. Then they played Michigan. They play Virginia Tech again. And they got West Virginia mixed in there.
Just none of that really on the hindsight side of things. It was just not very intriguing whatsoever.
But you make a good point that when Alabama and West Virginia scheduled that game, West Virginia was fresh off scoring 70 against Clemson.
I know.
And so, you do what you can, and you try and schedule. And Alabama does have Florida State coming up, and who knows? I mean, Florida State, the bottom may fall out of that thing before they get to Florida State in a couple of years.
Could do that. Let's go to the phone lines. Billy, you have a prediction for us.
Yeah, I want to make my prediction. Alabama 27, Wisconsin 17.
Ooh.
And Henry 105 yards rushing.
27-17 and Henry 105 yards rushing.
Yes, sir.
All right, Billy.
Thank you.
We appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that'll take us to our next break. We come back, you get your call in, and we would love to hear from you, get your prediction. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Clear. If you're looking for the best chicken fingers or wings in town, then look no further than JR Sports Bar and Grill in Ellick City. Order my favorite, the
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. About 20 minutes or so left in today's show. Give us a call, 256-234-6221, to get your prediction in. Alabama, Wisconsin, tiebreaker, Derrick Henry rushing yards. We've had predictions all week long, man. It's blown up on Facebook, man, well over 200 and something predictions sent in on our social media. So that gets you in the prize pack, gets you to your name put in the prize pack for or in the hat for a prize pack. How about that? I'm trying to get this thing straight. But get your name in the hat for a prize pack of Sports Blitz merchandise. So we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 256-234-6221. As Georgia is underway, Ole Miss is underway. Now, neither team having an issue early in this game. Georgia on the first possession went 3 and out, but they've since put 14 points on the board, have had an interception. They're playing Louisiana, Monroe, Tennessee Martin, and Ole Miss getting together right now, Luke. So a lot of these games, these first week games, a lot of inferior opponents for the SEC. You expect that. Stanford and Northwestern is on as well. Stanford has an early 3-0 lead in that football game. They are playing at Northwestern. So those are your games that are on right now as we head into the lunch hour of noon, and there'll be more games kicking off right after that. So exciting day. Alabama and Auburn will be in action today, and I know a lot of people pumped up about that. We want to take those predictions out there. Luke, any of these games out there today, I mean, we've talked about LSU. I mean, we've talked about Louisville and Auburn and Alabama, Wisconsin. I don't really feel like if both teams come out and play the way they're supposed to, should take care of business. Anything else out there that you feel like could be a surprise today?
I don't think we'll see a lot of surprises today, but I'll say this. I'll ask you this. What newcomer are you most excited to see for Auburn today?
I said it yesterday, Byron Coward. I mean, I'm excited to see Byron Coward on the field. He's worked hard in fall camp. He's the number one high school defensive player in the country coming out this past recruiting season. It was a big get for Auburn to go down to Florida and get him. I'm excited about seeing that big guy on the defensive end. And also, I said Blake Countess, too. I'm excited to see Blake Countess at cornerback to see what he can do as he comes over from Michigan. So I'll flip it back over to you. Newcomer for you at Alabama, Luke.
Well, I think I'm really excited to see Minkah Fitzpatrick. I've heard so much about him recently. But, I don't know if this counts as a newcomer, but I'll say Marlon Humphrey because this is a guy that redshirted last year. He certainly got the lineage. And he has a lot of hype, and he's going to start tonight. Now, Minkah will also start in more of a nickel or dime package, but Marlon is going to be one of the starters at cornerback in base. And I think that I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do out there. I'm a little bit surprised that he's not in the return game. He's not featured in the return game at all because at Hoover, he was a heck of a return guy. And obviously – he's got the bloodlines for it. So
sure.
I'm excited about him. I mean, I guess I'm excited about whatever quarterback goes out there. I'm not really excited. I don't guess I'd say it that way. And I'm also excited to see what Kenyon Drake can bring back to the game. I mean, he obviously got hurt last year. It was a horrific looking injury.
Yeah.
But as I was talking about earlier, technology, medical advances, all those things.
He's back.
I think he's going to be back full force. And this is a guy that Lane Kiffin seems to pick guys out that he really wants to turn into stars. And he obviously did it with Amari Cooper. I think that he'll do it with Kenyon Drake.
Let's go to the phone lines. Brian, you're on Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown.
Alabama 38. Wisconsin 17.
38-17. I saw where you predicted Alabama to go 12-0. You really think so?
Yep.
I mean, it's going to be tough, Brian. I mean, that's speaking a lot. I mean, Alabama's got a good team coming back, but I don't think anybody survives the SEC unscathed this year. I'm just saying.
Elmore County won last night.
Let's move on to the next subject. Yeah, Elmore County did win. Brian, we appreciate your call, brother. Thank you. Okay. So there's Brian's prediction. I'm just respectfully disagreeing with Brian's prediction of 12-0 for Alabama. I'm just saying.
I will too. I feel like the road schedule with A&M and Auburn and Georgia and Mississippi State.
It's just a lot.
That's a gauntlet right there.
There's two. Look, I really feel like the team that comes out of the West could have 2 losses. I mean, seriously. So that's being prefaced. It's already being talked about. So I think that gives whoever comes out of the West an advantage, Luke, as they head into the season and the playoff, because everybody's already talking about how tough it is in the SEC West. So there's a possibility they're setting the stage for a 2-loss SEC team to get in that playoff, and I think that might very well happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if they do that, would you take an SEC West champ who ends up winning the SEC with 2 losses? And let's assume those 2 losses are good losses. They're not losses to, say, Kentucky in there mixed in. Would you take them over a 1-loss team from the Big Ten?
Absolutely, I would. And I know everybody says that's a homerish statement down here, but, I mean, you look at the caliber of teams minus a Vanderbilt in the SEC top to bottom versus the top to bottom in the Big Ten. It's not even a competition. I mean, they drop off after a couple of teams at the top. I mean, Michigan State, they didn't have a very impressive win yesterday. So I don't think anybody's really impressed with them, and I would consider them probably to be the second best team in the Big Ten, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I've seen them predicted to win the Big Ten and actually
now, would they win 27-14 or
37-24?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, against Central Michigan.
Right.
So who's all excited about that? So it drops off tremendously in the Big Ten. I mean, they do have the number 1 team in the country, but outside of that, I mean, it's almost like the SEC in basketball. I mean, we've got Kentucky and then everybody else.
That's right.
I mean, so it just drops off. So we don't sit down here and say the SEC is the best conference in basketball because we know it's not. And I don't know how Big Ten fans can sit there and say they're the best conference in football when they have 1, maybe 1.5 teams that they can throw in the mix. I mean, we've already been down this path, Luke. We went through and we tried to take the best teams out of every conference and make a whole separate conference and to compare them to the SEC. And, I mean, we were barely able to go through every conference and pull out the top 2 or 3 that would be comparable to the entire SEC.
Yeah,
I mean, that just shows you right there.
I agree. I think it's going to be I think an SEC team will be in this unless the SEC champ were somebody with 3 losses. I think
you start to push the envelope a little bit, but I don't think so. I mean, if you're good enough, I mean, we've seen Alabama and Auburn over the years have tough schedules, but still able to survive either undefeated or with 1 loss and be able to move on. And I think if the cream rises to the top and the tough teams will find a way. You said it in the first hour about high schools trying to find that way to make the play and get over the hump. Well, the good teams always do. They might get knocked off 1 time, but or even 2 this year with it being so tough and kind of so much parity. But I don't see anybody coming out as the champ of the SEC with 3 losses. 256-234-6221. A couple more segments left today's show. Make sure you get your call in, get your predictions. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Clear. All right, gentlemen.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Only about 15 minutes or so left in today's show. Get your call in, 256-234-6221. Ole Miss 20-0 on Tennessee Martin. Nobody shocked by that score. Georgia up 14-0 on Louisiana Monroe with the football back here late in the first quarter. Northwestern and Stanford tied up now at 3 apiece. I want to go back to a game we did not discuss from Thursday night. Were you shocked about TCU a little bit? Number 2 team in the country wins 23-17 against Minnesota. Minnesota has the football with a chance to go down and win the game. Couldn't get it done, but Trevon Boykin definitely looks the part. I think TCU has a high upside, but not a very pretty start for them on the road.
Yeah, they looked rather lethargic out there. They weren't very exciting. Trevon Boykin, I thought he would bring a lot more to the table in that game and kind of show out.
Are they really the number 2 team in the country?
I don't think so. I mean, that seemed to be some political correctness in there. I mean, they were good and kind of throwing the Big 12 a bone for being left out of the playoff last year. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't think they're the number 2 team in the country. But here's the thing. Ohio State was named the unanimous preseason number 1 team in the country, and I think they should have been, first time in AP history. But who is number 2? I mean, as an Alabama fan, I mean, I could put them there, but I don't really believe it. TCU, same thing. Baylor, same thing. They had their struggles last night a little bit, and you could see Baylor.
I'm not buying into Baylor. Okay, I'm sorry.
They can beat a lot of teams, but I don't feel like they're a complete team by any stretch. I mean, you're gonna put Auburn there. You're gonna put.
I don't think Auburn deserves to be there right now.
Who else you gonna put there? I mean, name somebody you're gonna put number 2. It is a wide open race. I think Ohio State unanimous number 1,
and then
totally
everybody else,
and then. You have a bunch of maybe 8 to 9 teams that I think are vying for that other spot. And I had a lot of chatter this week on sports radio talking about moving to 8 teams. I'm still adamantly against it. I was so relieved when we interviewed Phil Steele a couple of weeks ago, and Phil Steele was on my side. 4 teams is where it is, where it needs to be. When you start getting into 8, you're going to go to 12. You go to 12, you're going to go to 16. And then you got the NCAA basketball tournament, which is a joke.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to look at it, and everybody's got their own opinion about it.
Well, I had a guy on Twitter, Brett. I don't mean to pick you off, but just a guy on Twitter.
Already picking passes off.
I know. A guy on Twitter said, well, it works for high school. Yeah, it does work for high school. And here's the reason. We don't get to see all the high school teams every single week. I do think high school probably has too many teams, to be quite honest with you, because you have teams with losing records getting in, and I never think that's a good thing for playoffs. But for high school, in college, we get to see these teams because there's so much coverage. We get to see all these teams all the time. So we kind of know who deserves to be there and who doesn't. And, you want to go back to TCU or Baylor getting robbed, quote unquote. If you're TCU, don't give up a 21-point lead. If you're Baylor, don't lose to West Virginia. It's that simple.
Yeah, and I know it's about timing, too, because we've been down this road. Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech, who was horrible last year. So, everybody's like, well, why do they get a pass? And, Baylor and TCU beat up on each other. I mean, look, there's so many different ways to look at it, and you say what you want. Ohio State did sneak into the top 4, and they proved that, hey, they deserve to be there. They won the whole daggum thing. They beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and then they end up beating Oregon in the national championship game. So when they got there, they took advantage of it. There'll never be a correct answer to this situation, I think. There's going to be some that push for 8 teams, and there are going to be some that are happy with it being at 4. And, look, the reason we're in this situation is because nobody was happy with the BCS. The BCS was flawed, and, you're down to 2 teams, and it made you almost have to play perfect football week in and week out to even have a chance to be up there in the top 2. And if we'd have been in the old BCS, Ohio State would have never had a chance to play for a national championship. It would have been Alabama and Florida State, and they didn't even make it to the game.
But I go back to the BCS. Isn't there something awesome about making people play beautiful? That's why college football is.
But you can't be perfect.
I know you can't, but that's why college football has the best regular season in sports, and that's non-debatable. I mean, it's the best regular season. Every week matters. When you start getting into 8 and 12 or 16 teams, You know, you could, you're like, I can take a week off. And the whole reason college football is fantastic, we look forward to it, is because every week matters.
And I know you don't want to start getting into the fact where you water down some of these unbelievable rivals like the Iron Bowl, where, you know, if you got a lock, if you feel like you got a lock and you know you're going in the playoffs, you say, well, I'm not going to play this guy. I'm going to get him hurt.
That's
I'm
right.
not going to play it, but you need to start doing that. I don't think that ever happened in the Iron Bowl, but you could see it happening around the country.
Sure.
You could see an Oregon and a Stanford playing at the end of the year going, you know, I'm going to hold him out because we're already in the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, because it happens in the NFL. But I do think the BCS was broken, and the reason it was is because it narrowed it down, the computers and all the stuff that went into it. Some teams got left out, not just Auburn, but some teams that had a chance to win a national championship never got a shot at doing that. And this past year would have been another example of that. I thought that was a prime example of why the playoff is a fun deal. 4 teams is good. I'm with you. I think 4 teams, they set it there for a reason. It probably needs to stay there for a while and kind of see. You need a sample size, okay? If somebody is totally getting hosed every year, it seems like that's the case, then maybe you look at it, but don't change it after 1 year. Give it a chance.
Well, and here's the other thing. Everybody says, well, if you have 8, then you get the 5 conference champions and 3 wild cards. Well, then you argue about the wild cards. And every year a conference champion doesn't deserve to go. And I don't think just because
you
Ohio
automatically start controversy when you go with a 14 playoff and there's 5 major conferences.
I love controversy. We should love it. We're a sports talk show.
I totally agree. I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying it. I'm saying that they created a system that's going to have controversy because SEC fans in all their lore, and I'll hit on us for a second. I mean, we're so arrogant. We thought we were going to get 2 teams in.
Yeah.
When we all should have stepped back and said, look, we're going to be fortunate to get 1 team in, because the reason they did this is they wanted to spread the love around the country because the SEC had been dominating for so long. They wanted to spread the love. So it's going to be almost near impossible for the SEC to get 2 teams. When you got 5 conferences out there, somebody's going to get left out every year. Who's going to get left out again this year? I mean, because let's think about it. Is it going to be the Big 12 again? Big 12 going to get hosed again? But they set up to be the same way. And I know everybody was sad about TCU and Baylor and all this kind of stuff, but I mean, step up to the plate, big boys.
Get a championship game. And here's the other thing. Because Ohio State won last year, it doesn't make all the BCS games illegitimate, in my opinion. Nobody ever says it. When you look at the NCAA basketball tournament, you got teams that are 6 seeds, 7 seeds, 8 seeds, 9 seeds, making the Final Four all the time. That didn't justify their being there. They got hot at the right moment. Ohio State got hot at the right moment. Yeah. And I could make the argument that the BCS would have been more fair through the regular season to say, okay, you know, Ohio State, you look good at the end, but that loss to Virginia Tech is sticking out like a sore thumb. Yeah. And I could have made that argument. And it just so happened we have 4 teams now that get in. I mean, if you expand it to 16 teams, the 16 seed could win it. I'm not saying they can't win it. I'm just saying they don't deserve to be there. The regular season means something.
I totally agree with you on that, but I don't think it diminishes that. But it's just ironic that the first year of the playoff, a team wins the national championship that would not have been in the BCS national championship game, and neither one of the teams would have been. Oregon or Ohio State would have made it.
No, Oregon would have. Right?
No,
because they were the 2 seed.
No, but Florida State and Alabama the BCS would have never done that because Florida State was undefeated and defending national champs, and Alabama was number 2. So that never would have happened.
That's probably true.
It never would have happened. It would have been Florida State and Alabama, and I think everybody knows that. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Clear. Okay, you got about 3.5 minutes here, guys. 3.5, and I'll feed you music with a minute left in the show total. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Final segment here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Brett Pritchard and Luke Robinson. Been a great show. Appreciate all the calls and all the tweets, Facebook messages we've had out there. You can still get your prediction in for Alabama, Wisconsin, even after we sign off. Go to our Facebook page, enter that in. Tiebreaker is Derrick Henry rushing yards. Luke, we'll close out with predictions here for us. I'll start with you. We'll start with Auburn, Louisville. Auburn, Louisville, 2:30 CBS kickoff. Get the college football season started off for the Tigers. Preseason ranked number 6. Your score prediction there?
35-21 Auburn.
35-21 Auburn. I went yesterday, which might be a little bit far, but I said 42-17. I think Auburn's offense, they put 40 points on Arkansas last year to start the season. Jeremy Johnson was hot in the first half, scored 21 points. I definitely think they can put 40 on the board against Louisville. Louisville may score a little bit more. I'm trying to hope optimistically that Auburn's defense may be ahead of schedule. So I said 42-17, which might be too much of a despairing score, but I'll stick with that. Randy's score was a little bit more along the lines of yours. We'll check that out. I think Rock Thomas will have 110, 120 rushing yards in this ball game, so he'll have a solid game. And we'll flip over and talk about Alabama real quick. Close out the show. Alabama, Wisconsin, 7 o'clock in Dallas. I'll go first on Alabama, Wisconsin. I'll save you for last. I think Alabama wins 38 to 10, 38 to 16, 17, somewhere around in that range. I don't think it's going to be much at the end of the game. I think it could be close for a little while, but I think Alabama pulls away. So I'm going to stick with 38-16.
Yeah, I'll go 37-10. I think Wisconsin will score something, but I just have a lot of faith in this defense, and I don't have a lot of faith in Wisconsin's offensive line. So I'm going to go Alabama in a relative sleeper in the sense that Alabama's in control the whole game, but it's one of those that there are not a lot of exciting plays.
Well, Luke, we've done a lot of talking. Fall camp seemed to be the longest it's ever been. Well, it's finally here. We are only hours away from the start of Auburn and Alabama season. Auburn gets it started at 2:30. Alabama starts at 7. Texas A&M will be on the field later on tonight to take on Arizona State. That's the other big profile game in the SEC. All 3 of those teams will be taking on opponents outside of the conference. So we're going to wait and see how this all plays out. A lot of expectations for the in-state teams for Alabama and Auburn. They get started today. You don't want to get started off on the wrong foot. You want to come out and finally all the talk of the fall camp with Alabama's quarterback situation, we'll see firsthand. Luke, we won't have to wait and speculate. For Auburn, we'll finally see Will Muschamp's defense. Will Muschamp back at Auburn. We'll see that on the field. It's been a great show. We are glad that you tuned us in, and we'll be back with you on Tuesday night for Late March Sports Roundup and then Sports Blitz Live, breaking down these games you're going to watch today. For Luke Robinson, I'm Brett Pritchard saying we've enjoyed it. We hope you have. See you next week.
You're out. Have a good weekend. We're down.